Morning, everybody. So I'm Kim Bomberger, and this is Women on the Rise. Here we talk with inspiring, empowered women who are dreaming new dreams, creating their legacies, and building their empires. And Nancy is one of our Women on the Rise, and who is certainly doing all of those things. So what is different about Nancy is that a lot of our women in this group are entrepreneurs, and Nancy is an entrepreneur, but she actually works with professional career women. And so for those career babes out there, this is one that you are not going to want to miss. So Nancy is a certified professional career coach with over 25 years in the learning and development space at large global corporations. And when she stepped away from her corporate career, she now uses her unique skill set to help women and people, individuals, corporations, everyone, to find better career satisfaction, that work-life balance, and meaningful personal growth. So let me introduce my good friend, Nancy Lysandrou.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kim. I'm honored that you asked me to join you today.
I'm so glad that you could come on, because I think that this is just a niche that especially in a lot of our online women's groups, they're almost, a lot of them are dedicated to people who are growing their own businesses. And that's how we met, actually, was in a women's networking, some of the women's networking meetings for business owners, right? And so, but we know that women over the age of 50 especially can face really unique challenges in the working world.
Yes.
And there's a lot of things. Tell me what some of those things are, the unique challenges that women who are, rising
Yes.
are actually running into.
Yes. And it's interesting because some of the those challenges continue when you have your own business. So there is definitely an overlap. It may not be as overt as when you're in the corporate world, but definitely women face the same challenges. Overall, when we think about women in the workplace, the biggest challenge is them finding their voice. And it's everywhere from having the courage to apply for a job you don't think you're qualified for, that imposter syndrome. It could be taking credit for the work that you're doing. Women tend to say, well, we did this. And while that may be true, you're assessed and judged really on what you as an individual do. So women like to be inclusive, but that doesn't always work for them. So it's trying to find that fine line. The other piece is women are always trying to find that difference between being assertive and being aggressive. I mean, I'm sure there's many times where women are trying to be assertive and they're referred to as the B word. And it's not right. If the same thing was being said by a man, that absolutely wouldn't happen. So it's all of those little things that add up throughout your career. And by the time you hit 50, some of them are very ingrained. Saying I'm sorry all the time for something that's not your fault, right? Women tend to apologize so many times. A better thing to say than I'm sorry if you're running late. I always run late, right? So instead of saying I'm sorry I'm late, say instead, thank you for being patient. It's just those little things that makes you seem a little bit more powerful than being the humble and hiding behind. So that's some of it overall for women. I can continue and talk about some of the unique challenges then for women.
I think that's good, because I think that I was thinking about that ahead of our conversation today that women in our generation, especially, we were just kind of brought up to be good girls and kind of fly and be humble, right? We're always
Yep.
supposed to be humble. Don't toot your own horn. I mean, these are things I remember growing up with. And so you're just kind of waiting around for somebody to acknowledge you. Or then if you decide you're going to, okay, I'm going to get empowered and I'm going to go ahead and start standing up for myself. And the first time you do that, if you're met with that, B word or whatever, it's like, oh, wait a minute then. And then you shrink back, like it's like this dance that we
Yes.
do. And I don't know if if the younger generation coming up are raised that way or feel that way, but I know that it certainly, applies to our
Oh,
generation.
yeah. And it is more of a generational, and I'd like to think that our generation is influencing the following generations to stand up and be more on your own. There's so many more opportunities now for women. There's a lot more women's groups. What you're
Mhm,
doing is
mhm.
just so valuable. Um, and you're absolutely right. It starts at a very young age. Women are taught to, you know, stay clean and behave, whereas the boys can go out there, they can become competitive, they fight for what they want, and then they still end up best friends with the guys that they're fighting with, other boys are fighting with, where women are taught to behave themselves and to be quiet and to accept what's given to them, to be polite. I'm not saying boys aren't, but it's how many times have you heard, oh, he's all boy, or those type of things, where you wouldn't hear that unless the girl is quiet and polite, etc. The expectations are very different, and our generation grew up that way. So it definitely makes a difference. And um, by the time you are in your 50s, 60s, 70s, there's the cumulative effect of it. Plus, you have ageism as well. So it tends to get even more complicated. Ageism is definitely something that is out there. There are many women that leave the corporate world not of their own choosing when they are over the age of 50. And now what? Now what do I do? Am I going to go for another job? And a lot of times for company, it's a financial. It has nothing to do with your age. It's because you've reached a certain level in your career and you're getting paid close to what you should be getting paid.
Right.
And yeah, and
And they can
so
bring somebody in younger and pay them less
exactly.
because they're starting all over again.
Exactly. So age discrimination is a huge thing when it comes to whether it be a hiring process, whether it be you working as an entrepreneur with vendors.
Mhm.
How is it that they see you? And you know what? How do we see ourselves as that? Because we might see something that really doesn't exist in somebody else's eyes. When somebody looks at us and it's like, oh, they're thinking I'm really old, or what am I doing this for when I should be retired? Are they really thinking that? Or is that a story we're telling ourselves because we are
Mhm.
sensitive to it as well?
Yeah, I think that to your point, it's where it starts, right? Because everything starts
Right.
in our mind with our own thoughts. And then when we believe that and we take it on, we are just projecting it then to other people too, who may not be feeling that. But I
Exactly.
but I know, and I've seen ageism happen. I've seen it happen with other women that I know. I've seen them basically really forced out of their job to
Yeah.
bring new people in. How would you suggest that you combat that, or maybe not even combat it, but to prevent it? Like, are there things
Mhm.
that you can do if you are hitting an age where you feel like the company might be looking to move you on out and bring somebody younger in? Like, are there things that you can do to, if you want to stay there, to anchor in your
Sure.
position?
Sure. And some of it's not unique to women. But I will say that, you combine gender and ageism, how many times when a man gets older, oh, he's a distinguished gentleman,
Yes,
right?
yes. They can get gray hair and be distinguished. They
Oh
can get
my
wrinkles and look
goodness, yes, and
rugged.
we're constantly, what can we do to maintain that younger look and all? So, you know, or experienced, or
Mm,
seasoned. Women can be called seasoned, but seasoned is a
doesn't
code
sound
word.
so good
It
for
doesn't
women.
sound the same as
I really want to be
experience,
seasoned.
right? Right, right. But there are things that you can do. Um, Joining groups and staying networked. In your industry, regardless of what that industry is, it keeps you learning what's going on in your business and or in your industry. And it keeps you exposed to younger folks and new ideas as well. So then you become part of the group. You're not an external, older, seasoned person,
Right.
right? So continuing with the networking, that is such a big deal, is to continue with networking, being part of a group like yours, Kim, where you get ideas of what else you can do as you continue to progress in your career and your age as we get older. That's one thing. The other thing is continuous learning. I mean, we all have experienced brain fog, and I know for me this summer I had COVID, and I'm still blaming
Mhm.
COVID for my brain fog now, because I'm not going to admit it's because of my age. Um,
And
so
it
so
isn't,
what
it's COVID totally.
it's
That is a
COVID. It's
thing.
absolutely COVID, right? So continuous learning, always learn. I was I surprised myself in starting my own business in the technology over the age of 60 that I could still learn, right? It's like, okay, I know how to update this website. I know how to use, Facebook ads or anything having to do with technology. Um, Attend workshops, do online training, gain certifications. Kim, with what you do as far as photography, you stay on top of your industry and that's what makes you so good, is what's going on. And I
Thank you.
encourage everybody to do that, because that's what keeps you young and bringing the ideas forward. And that then counteracts, if you will, any age-based assumptions about, being too old, not able to learn things, being old-fashioned, not open to new ideas, all of those assumptions. Um,
I
that
think
that
you're
all helps
really
with that.
right with that because everything goes so fast now. Like it's always changing. You learn something and then, oh, that doesn't work now. So you have to, keep learning. But years ago, it used to be that somebody could retire from their job or, be at that age and they have all of this wisdom and knowledge and everybody can come to them to get it. But now that knowledge can be obsolete, not all of it, but a lot of it, it's
A
like,
lot of
well,
it.
no, we don't do it like that anymore. And it changed yesterday. So,
Yes. Oh my goodness, that drives me crazy. You learn technology, okay, I got this, and 1 month later, you're back in there. It's like, wait a minute, they changed the screens, they changed the process, and it doesn't matter if you're writing a book and what's going on with publishing to Amazon or using Shopify or in a corporate workplace. Things are constantly changing, and it's so important to embrace that change and just be open to new ideas and never say, well, this is the way we used to do it, right?
yes, yes. No, that doesn't fly
It-
today. It can't. If you
right.
want to stay relevant, you have to continue. And the good news with that is that all of the research and data leads to, showing that the more active that we are as we age, the more that we continue learning, we have decreased chances for Alzheimer's and dementia and things like that,
Yes.
because we are not staying stationary and we are continuing to force our brains to learn new things. And, which you and I have had this conversation and over again. And I'm like, but I don't want to learn something new. I mean, it takes effort to keep doing that. It would be nice if you could say, oh, I've got this all down. I'm good. I can just keep on this path and just, not have to learn new stuff all the time. But it is, I
Yeah,
think there's a benefit to it, but we have to
it
embrace
is.
it, like you said.
And
Yes.
and it takes us longer, let's be honest. It really does take us
Yeah.
longer. I mean, how many times that, you start following a recipe, you get through 2 steps and you're like, what was I supposed to do next? I love there's a meme out there about how many times do you pull a box out of the garbage because you forgot what it said on the
I
back
haven't
as you're
seen
cooking
that, but I've
something,
done it.
right? You read it, okay, good. And then it's like, what was the oven temperature for this? I mean, it happens. It happens, but that's no reason to give up. It's no
Right.
reason to condemn yourself. All that's going to
Oh,
do
yeah.
is, validate in your own mind that you're losing it, right? That you
Right.
you
You're
can't
so right.
recall things. And don't do that. Say, all right, well, I have to look it up again. All right, well, I need to pull out of my drawer a magnifying glass in order to see what the prescription says, right? So it's okay. Just don't stop moving. Find ways to adapt and
Right.
continue to go forward.
So
So
good.
that's
That's such great
yeah.
advice. And you can't afford to become stagnant, especially if you are working for somebody else. Well, not for yourself either, but at least you have the opportunity to forge your own path and set your own schedule and make your own you create your own processes and things when you're on your
Yeah.
own, but you have to be able to fall in step with everything and even be sometimes on that cutting edge of things at your work so that you're continuing to prove your
Yes.
relevance and your value.
And if you go back to, again, the way we were raised, we weren't raised to brag. It's
Right.
funny you said about tooting your horn. One of the best books I have here that I quote from all the time, it's called Brag, The Art of Tooting Your Own Horn Without Blowing It. And it's geared for
Oh,
women
yeah.
to how do you self-promote? And as you get older, all the more important to self-promote. And this is what I'm doing. This was the results. There's something called the STAR method. What is the situation? What was the task at hand? What's the action you took? And what is the results? Really, really simple. If you're an entrepreneur, you use that as well as you're trying to get clients. It's just something very, very quick and easy. You don't need to go on and on, but it's very much based in your accomplishments, and it's something you should be very proud of it as well.
So if you are in a corporation or a company working, how would you integrate that? Like, would you do it at your review time or
Mm,
do you integrate it throughout, the course of
throughout,
your, okay.
throughout. Don't wait for that one time of a year. If you're not meeting with your superiors on a regular basis, start doing that. And when
Yeah.
you meet, say that this is, what, and you certainly can say, this is what my team is doing if you manage a team,
Uh-huh.
but make sure you say what you have done, how you have strategically planned things, what it is that you're learning, how it is you're networking as well. So you want to have these, what the author calls brag bites in your back pocket. So at any time you can say, yeah, such and such happened, and this is how I addressed it. And here was the results, which is, of course, always positive results. If they're not positive results, what did you learn from it?
Oh, good.
And
Yeah.
what would you recommend doing different the next time?
Okay. I love that. I love
Yeah,
that. So and when we're finished, if you would drop the name of that book in the comments so people can look it
absolutely.
up,
Yeah,
because it sounds really fascinating. Because like you said, even if you're an entrepreneur, just having those things handy for your marketing or for your sound bites when you're, speaking or doing your social media posts, it's always good to,
yes,
because it's really, really hard not to sound. I mean, when I grew up, they called it conceited. If you said anything, nice
yes,
about yourself, well, she's conceited, and how do you do that in a way that it, well, like you said, without blowing it. I love that, tooting your
right,
own horn
right.
without blowing it, because it's really challenging for us
It is.
sometimes, and some more than others, obviously, but yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things I've started another area I just started reading about is we keep hearing about you have to have confidence, right? Sometimes you're just not going to be confident and you have to do it anyway. So you feel the fear and do it anyway. But I came across a woman, I think she is a career coach or she is a coach, and she talks about the difference between courage and confidence and
Oh,
how important it is to have courage over, even if you're not confident, have courage to do it. And women have courage to do a lot of things. They will fight for their children, they will fight for their family, they will fight for their team, they will fight for their company, but they don't always fight for themselves. And that is one of the big differences. Um, the other piece I just want to add quickly too, I do want to be sensitive to time, is you think about when you're a woman younger and you have children, you have that work-life balance. Well, what is very challenging as we get older, you think, oh, my kids are older, I'll focus on my career. We're part of that sandwich generation,
mhm.
right? Now your children may be almost grown, but they still need you. You're still involved in their lives. They may just be entering adulthood. Now you're taking care of your parents as well,
And you
right?
definitely went through that.
Yes.
Yeah, that was your, yeah, I know. So you know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it happens to so many people, and women don't always have a safe place to talk about that, especially in the workplace. So it is so important to have those support groups, just as you built them when your child was young and perhaps they went to daycare or you had a neighbor pick up or your help with carpool. You need to do exactly the same things to protect yourself as you get as your parents get older, as you get older, and you take on responsibilities for them. So that's another piece that I think is so critical of women our age as we look at the work-life balance and what we're doing, because it's so easy to get burned out.
Oh, I get, and I can see that, especially if you are, I'm just thinking of the challenges that younger working moms had, just
Mhm.
balancing, when the kid's sick and you have to be in a meeting and
Yeah.
all of that. And then you compound that. Okay, now my grandkid needs me and my mom just fell and I have to go take care of that. And I have 6 meetings and, these
Yes.
things to do. And
Yes.
so I can see how that could be really overwhelming.
Yeah. And so again, you hear it all the time. You need to take care of yourself, put on your own, oxygen before you help others. We don't do
Exactly.
it. We don't do it. I mean, and there's also the wage gap, right? As you progress, if you're not getting the wages throughout your career, then that happens. And what happens when we get older? We don't have the retirement funds. We don't take care of ourselves. Why? Oh, because your child needs something. I
Right.
do it. I
Yeah,
do it all
we
the
all
time.
do.
And your children have a lot more earning years left than what we do, but at the same time, it's just the nurturing part of us. So it's something to be aware of and something to make that conscious decision of how is it that you are going to financially, physically, emotionally, and mentally take care of yourself.
That is so good. So this might be totally off topic from that, but I was thinking back in my days of working corporate, And even some of the younger people I know now who are in that space, it's like, when you talk about wage gap, how do you even know? Like, how do you know? Because they don't talk about what other people in the company make. Like,
Right.
how do you find out what, like, where you could even expect to go?
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting because there are actually studies out there where you could look at your industry and what is a fair wage. One of the pieces that I would find so frustrating staying within a company is, you get your 2%, 3% raise,
Mhm.
right? But if you were to leave the company and go somewhere else, all of a sudden you would get that bump. And similarly, it happens even as you move up the company. How do you find out? The best way is to look into some industry studies. Most jobs, there's a posting out there as far as the wage difference. If you've been with a company a long time and getting your 2 or 3% raise, guaranteed you are underpaid. This is another way where the younger generation has got it right. They openly talk about their
They
salaries.
do. And they will
It was all
openly
hush
ask
hush
for more,
before.
and they will say,
Yes,
well, that's okay, I
yes.
can go to this company.
Right, or
Like,
it's, you know what, they'll say it's important for me to leave here at 4:30 because I have to go to the gym,
yes, it
and
is
they do
really
it, yes.
different.
It's very different,
And
and
that's
we need
very
to
important when
embrace
they,
that.
yes, and when they're looking for jobs, they are looking for places that have social accountability and opportunities for volunteering, and all of that is so important for them in addition to the work. And we never
Yeah,
thought about that.
no, and we should think twice before judging them as, "Oh, well, that's the millennial, that's the Gen Z." Instead, let's embrace it. There are things they are bringing to the workforce that we can all benefit from. So how do we, help them help us, if you will, to have some of that way of thinking, this new way of thinking, for all of us?
Oh, that's so good. So good. So where, you mentioned networking, of course, but where else can women go to really get your skills, keep your skill set up to date? Like, to even know what the skills are that you would need to have, I guess, and how you keep
Yeah.
those up to date.
Yeah, and it does depend on what type of business you're in. So for you being in photography, where you would go would be much different than what I would do looking at how do I coach women in their careers.
Mhm.
Um, Google, Google it, YouTube it. People think of YouTube sometimes as a social media. It's not a social media. It is a search engine, right?
It
And how many
is.
times? Yeah, you go to say you can go into YouTube. All right, well, how do I replace the water filter in my refrigerator? Right? You go to YouTube and do it. So and then you end up getting caught in there of besides watching the America's Got
Go
Talent best videos, right?
go down the
Um,
hole.
yeah, yeah, but whatever your job is, you can say, what are the skills I need? Do a self-assessment. Talk to a trusted friend in the same industry, saying, where do you see that I need to improve? If you're doing advertising and you're still doing print advertising, there's nothing wrong with that, but social media, Instagram, Instagram's where it's at. Pinterest, depending on your industry. Learn how to do it. We would always, I should say always, we would never accept from our children when they said, oh, I don't know how. When you
Mhm.
ask them to do the laundry, I don't know
Right.
how. All right, well, you're going to teach them. Teach yourself, right? Do the same
Exactly.
thing. So it really is where you go depends on what it is that you need. It might be a certification. LinkedIn Learning has so many courses that are available. And there's so much available online. There was a lot before COVID. Post COVID, there's so much there. There's no reason not to find something, anything, in order to build the skills in the area that you need them.
That's really good. And I learned that from my granddaughters actually when they were younger. So you can learn anything from YouTube, like anything. One of them was teaching herself how to play the piano on YouTube. And I'm like, what? It's just crazy. Yeah. And they feel so empowered. Like really, I'm finding how the younger people who are coming up with all of this access to technology and information, and they don't have to go to the library or look at outdated encyclopedias to get it. It's like it's all right there at their
Yep.
fingertips, and how empowered
And
they feel. Like they feel like there's nothing that they can't do.
right. And the other thing is you don't have to take a, 3-hour course to learn that one little piece. You can learn
Exactly.
just that one little piece, that little
Exactly.
snippet.
Yeah, I didn't
Um,
need all of that. I need to know the
yes,
whole process. Just how do you do this little bit? Yeah,
exactly.
so
So
good.
it's actually for time efficiency.
Yeah.
It's priceless as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's all such great information, Nancy. So how do you actually help clients? Like, what would be the scenario if somebody came to you and needed your help, and what do you help them do?
That's a great question, because coaching is kind of all over the board. So for me specifically, it really is looking at what are the goals, what are the challenges that they're facing, what are the goals, where are they today? For me, working with clients, it's very much of getting clarity on what do you want, where do you want to be, where are you today? Let's do an assessment. And then how are you going to get there? Building that roadmap and then traveling that journey along the roadmap to where you want to be. And when you're hitting bumps in the road, why are there the bumps? What can we do to help you get around them, over them, quick detour and then coming back.
Mhm.
Um, the one of the huge benefits of coaching is having someone travel with you, to be your cheerleader, to encourage you, to bounce ideas off of. Coaching provides all of that, regardless of what type of coaching that you seek. It really is being that cheerleader for you, but it's helping you find you. It's not telling you this is what you need to do. And when you think
Mhm.
about, again, entrepreneurs, right? How much money have I spent, right, to learn about marketing where other people are telling me what to do, instead of me thinking about, well, what is it that I want for my business?
Right.
Right. And taking the time to do that, and then finding the right, and I do have coaches. I have 2 coaches myself. Finding the right coaches to help you get there, because that's what you want.
Right.
So yeah, so that's really, for me, it's very customized. It's one-on-one coaching. It's based on where you want to go and what your unique challenges are. There is no cookie cutter for any one person.
Okay, and I know we're speaking to women in this group, obviously, but I know you also help men, and you
Mhm.
help whole corporations. You go in and help teams, right,
Yes. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
figure things
Absolutely.
out. And um, so I'm just thinking of a scenario like if I were in a business and I was looking to get to the next level, and the door kept slamming in my face, then maybe that would be my opportunity to come to you and say, hey, can you help me out with
Yeah.
this? And
Yeah. What's
that's
happening? And I'm not saying that I can go and open that door for you, but I can help you figure out why that door keeps getting closed,
hmm
and what is
hmm
it that you need to do differently. How is it that you're presenting yourself? How are other people seeing you? Which is what's
mm,
most important. It's not what you think you're saying, it's what they're
right.
hearing.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So it's working with you then to say, and is this the right door for you? Even myself, now being in this
Right.
business for 6, 7 years, just recently I've decided to change my focus going into next year, because what's
Mm-hmm.
working, what's not working, and what's bringing me joy, what's bringing me peace. And if it's not working, why am I doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, especially as we
Exactly.
get older, life is too
Exactly.
short.
It's too short to do things that we don't love to do. And I think sometimes we lose clarity on what we even want. I think that as
Yes.
women, sometimes we put everybody else's needs ahead of ours for so long. It's like we don't even know what we want to do. And so taking that time to just really go inside and find out what it is that we even desire so that we can make it happen, because you're so right. Life is too short to just kind of float around not knowing even what we want. Everybody can
Yeah,
come up with what we really love and want to do and find a plan to get there.
exactly. So, too many of us work off of a task list. I have to do this. I have to do this. Why? How does it align to where you want to be, to your long-term goals? If it doesn't, why are you doing it? I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying you really need to figure out why it is you're doing it. It could be based on your values, right? You're doing it because of your spiritual values or your values as a mother or a grandmother, and that's okay. But I'm just encouraging you to take a step back and ask, why is it that you're doing what you're doing on this task list that is so long?
Yes, because I think that once we recognize if there's something that we're doing it because of a value that we have, even if we're not loving it at the moment, at least we understand that we're making a choice in it and we're not victims to
Exactly.
it because we're choosing it and we recognize that we're choosing it.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. If you do not want to play the victim, right? You want to choose what you're doing, and if it's aligned to your values, then you are choosing to do it, and there is nothing wrong with that, and embrace it.
Right. But we have to own it at that point.
You'd
Yeah.
have to own it.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, Kim.
Oh my goodness. Well, Nancy, I think you sent me over your information. Either I or you can drop it in the comments. I haven't seen,
Great.
but I don't always see. Sometimes it'll be after a live that I will see comments that I never saw come in during. I've got my phone down there, but and I see that we're live, but I don't see comments. So if anybody has
That's fine.
come on that I'm not seeing here and you have questions, Nancy's a member of this group, please drop them in the comments below. And she will come on, I'm sure, happily and answer any of your
Absolutely.
questions. So,
Absolutely.
well, do you
And
have any?
LinkedIn,
Oh, LinkedIn
that's
is
the
how to
other thing I
find
would
you.
say.
And
I am on LinkedIn every single day.
oh,
Um, so that's where I learn a lot, as well as that's where I share a lot. I do have a newsletter that's on LinkedIn. I post several times a week. So connect with me on LinkedIn.
and let me
That
say,
would be the
Nancy, your
easiest way.
newsletter is amazing. And so if anybody is not subscribed to that and would like to, because I'm not in corporate, but I always get something out of the things that you share in your
Thank
newsletters.
you.
They're very helpful.
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate
Yeah,
that. I
yeah.
appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come on with us today and share all of this great information. If people are watching this after the fact, if you'll just drop replay in there so we know who was catching this. And yeah, so thank you for taking time out of your day. And I've really enjoyed, as always, talking to you because you always have inspiring things to share. And I always learn so much every time we talk. So,
Thank you,
all
Kim.
right.
Yes, I love this group, and I have learned so much by following the different interviews you've been doing. So I appreciate
Yeah, we've
you
had
giving
some
me
great
this
people.
opportunity.
Yeah, and you're one of them. So thank you. All right. Well, I'm going to cut this off and we will just close off and say goodbye. And thank you all for being here today. Okay, let me turn this